Basecamp. We get to hear from Chad today. Chad, are you going to be kind of going through some of the same stuff I heard in Centerville? Awesome. You guys are going to love it. First off, Phil, would you like to come up and say a couple words? Sure. From Inspiro, let's welcome Phil up.
Good morning. Every year at this time, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac review their maximum loan limits for conventional loans and usually announce an increase. And that happened a week ago today. They came out with their new loan limits for 2020. So the reason this is good is because this is the loan amount that you can your borrowers can get without having to move into a jumbo category, which is a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive for them. So anyway, the nationwide limit went from $484,350 up to $510,400, which is an increase of about $26,000. There is if you're in whichever MSA, it's a metropolitan statistical area, because of high cost of living, they allow for additional increases. So with that being said, we've had some sad news in Salt Lake County, but great news everywhere else in the state of Utah. Our limit was last year $600,300, and that is staying exactly the same. Okay, so no increase there. I'm just giving you the counties that I assume most of you guys do all your work in. I passed around a sheet that shows all this information, so you don't need to write it down. But Utah County went from the base of $484,350 up to $510, so they jumped $26,000 in what they can lend. And then we had a couple of huge ones. Weber Davis, they went from $484,350 to $646,300. That's $162,000 increase in loan limit. And Summit went up about $26,000, and then the biggest winner of all, which is weird to me, but it was Wasatch County. They were in a different MSA, and I think they rolled them into the same one that Summit's in. So their increase went from $484,350 to $762,450. So that's an increase of $278,000, which is huge. And these limits all apply to one unit. Okay, on the sheet that I've passed around, you can see what limits are for 2, 3, and 4 unit properties. If you have questions on any of this, we would love to talk to you about it. You can't see the rates because the screen's down, but they're great right now. 3.75, no cost on conventional, 3.25 on FHA, and 3.375 on VA. So if we can help you out with anything, you know where to find us. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And if you guys haven't heard already, just a quick plug. I know with us in leadership, the things we are hearing back about Inspiro and the individuals that are there and the different loan officers we have that have so much experience. And more than anything, I know how it feels a lot of times when you feel like you're handing your client off and wondering what's going on and if they're maintaining the same professionalism and if they care just as much as I do about working with my client. And all I can say is when people have approached me in the past, and I'm sure we've been there also, I always just ask people to give me a chance to put my hat in the ring. And I highly recommend just giving these guys a chance and seeing how well they do for you. But thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
And yeah, so today, man, I feel like, Dave, do you want to introduce Chad? Or do you know something embarrassing? I'm sure you do about this guy. Just my 2 cents really, he just jumped right up to say something. You have this ready. So just really quick, if in my limited interactions with Chad is really turning red over here. This is going to be good. But I would just have to say, I had the opportunity to hear him in Centerville, and learn more about his background and everything. And I think a lot of us that know him will agree. When you're even seeing him in the elevator, in the hallway, outside in the foyer, whatever it is, he is truly someone that's present, that is engaged and sees you and greets you and is sincere about it, rather than looking at their phone, rushing by and everything. And just from that, and also from what I learned from him before, he truly knows how to create an experience for his clients. And this guy has a big fan base, and he'll explain some of that with you. But yeah, Dave, do you have something more to add to that?
That's a pretty good intro, but
okay.
I will say one thing with Chad. I've known Chad for about 6 years. Worked really closely with him. Incredible agent, but also just an incredible human being. He does have that talent just to connect to people. He just, everywhere he goes, it's, I kind of learned and just kind of watch him, how he connects to people. But we were in Cafe Rio, maybe a year ago or so, and I started kind of, watching him connect to different people in different ways. And I'm like, I'm going to really try to do this. And so, anyhow, we're in Cafe Rio line, and I'm like, I've been making an effort. We go there quite a bit or whatever to connect to all the workers and just to get to know them, because every time he goes in there, everyone's like, "Hey, Chad!" It's like cheers, with Norm or whatever. But so yeah, I've been making an effort anyhow. So I was going through the line. I get to the line, and the lady that is the cash register that taken my money for years of going there, that I've been making an effort. She has this big old smile, and I'm like, it's working, and then I realized that she was looking at Chad right behind me. So, but that's how he is. That's how everywhere he goes, and the things that he's going to talk about today are things that has really catapulted his business, and it's something that our team has tried to connect to and really, just get a lot of referrals. I mean, get a lot of people that you end up becoming their lifelong realtors. So, anyhow, Chad Wagstaff.
All right, y'all. How are you today? I'm just gonna get this set up for 2 seconds here. Shout out to my mom in the room. How are you, Mom?
Thank you. They're giving you a big cat off. I should talk about it.
Yeah, she's really the one who can embarrass me. This was ready. There we go. Okay, cool. So as my opening slide shows, today I'm just going to be talking about superior customer service with our clients, how you can get and keep a client base for life, and how that can feed your business, and how it has fed my business over the past basically 7-8 years. And so just a little bit about me, just so you kind of have a reference. I'll show you some numbers too. But I got my real estate license in 2012, and I was working in the restaurant industry at the time. I had worked in the restaurant industry for a long time, and my wife and I had bought a house from our family friend, Ken Bell, who happens to be Sam Bell's dad. And so kind of sparked a little bit of interest there. I kind of always wanted to be in real estate, and I got my degree in urban planning and development. So I thought maybe I would want to do some commercial or land development stuff. But anyway, I worked at Bell Realty for a year with Ken, just kind of starting out. And then my friend, his older brother worked here at Everest, and my first year was kind of rocky, so I came over here to get some training and to participate. And anyway, that was in 2012. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, but that's the year that I got hooked up with Dave. And anyway, I've just been selling real estate full time since then. And it's been good for me. So no matter what type of lead type that you prospect or that you work, this is a universal message in customer service. Whatever you do and for your clients to help their process go smoothly will ultimately feed your business for life. It'll feed your future. This is a relationship-based business where really we're not selling houses, right? We're selling the process through us as agents. And so with that mentality and understanding how your customer service is, whether it be good or bad or strong in some ways and weak in others, as we grow this muscle and we work this skill, we can start counting on repeat business. And I think that's what everybody in the room likes, is repeat business, clients who are happy, clients who come back to us, and clients who refer us to other people. So with that being said, I just kind of want to talk briefly, like I said, about my history a little bit more with a graph, so you can kind of get a sense of how this principle and how what I'm talking about today has actually helped my business. So the team that I joined in 2013 with Dave was an internet lead-based team. And so that meant I was calling warm leads who had signed up on a website, right? But regardless, like my first slide said, regardless of what you do, if it's a FSBO thing or door knocking or just listed, just sold, expireds, doesn't really matter. So as you can see, in 2013 is when I joined Everest. And the first part of the year I was on my friend's team, and then starting in October of that year I joined Dave's team. So my first year it was 7 deals. I had one team deal. It's too small to even get a digit on there. But I had 7 deals in 2013. And the next year, jumping into a system that worked, which is what we're all about here at Everest, right? I was able to get 33 internet deals in my first full year on the right team, and 8 SOI deals, or referrals, or friends, or family, those types of things. So I'm not going to belabor every year, but you can see a very clear pattern here. From fanatical prospecting and giving great customer service, I was able to take the bulk of my business coming from a lead-based generation for 3 years of hard work, getting majority of my deals through a lead system, and because of my customer service, because of my timeline, and because of what I feel like I've done well-ish, there's always room for improvement, that's been able to flip-flop. So then 2017, 2018, 2019, this year, 41 deals of mine this year have been referrals to me or past clients or family and friends. They're just sort of like, hey, like, you want to help us? I'm like, yeah. The nice thing about that part of the business is you don't have to compete as much, and it just gets easier over time. So anyway, this has been incredible for me. I have another couple little things here, so you can kind of see. This is the total number of deals or transactions that I've closed. And I've been kind of in a rhythm here. It looks kind of like my sweet spot is in the 40s, right? Like, every year I close between about 40 and 50 deals, and that's been pretty good and consistent for me. The thing that I'd like to talk about mostly today is how this customer service mentality and how serving your clients to the highest degree, how that can get everybody to have this type of consistency on your referral base. Because then you can do whatever you want. You can bring in different streams of income. Like, I've been able to buy some investment properties now, and I'm working in a leadership role on my team, which I really get fulfilled by, and helps me to have different ways of getting income, but also finding fulfillment and not just grinding for deal after deal. And just, if you're curious, just so you can kind of see income-wise, it's been kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, but trajectory in the right direction. If any of you guys are feeling right now, if any of you guys are here at 7 deals in 2019, it can 5 times. In just 1 year of getting into the right system and changing your approach, I'm living proof it can go from 7 deals 1 year to 40 deals the next year. And your income can 5 times too. Can go from $30K a year to $150,000 a year pretty easily, actually. If you just kind of take this approach and get into the right system. It kind of shocks me sometimes to see that type of thing, but anyway, I'm hoping that we can all work together. Does anybody have any questions on this, or anything they want to ask about it? No? Okay. So who's heard of the golden rule? Bible thing, golden rule. Because we're at Everest, I'm pretty sure everybody knows where this is going, but the golden rule, of course, is do unto others as you would have done unto you. this is kind of a bare minimum. I mean, the very, very minimum standard in a relationship-based business and just how you should be as a human, right? You know, you don't want to treat other people worse than you're treating yourself, but I mean, sometimes we can be pretty rough on ourselves too. Sometimes doing this isn't enough to give people the quality of service that they expect, number one, or that they deserve, number two. So has anybody heard of the Platinum Rule? Has anybody heard of this? Probably like 25% of the room. The Platinum Rule is a book, and I should have been prepared and been able to tell you who wrote it, but I don't know. The Platinum Rule is actually slightly different play on the Golden Rule. Do unto others as they would like done unto them. So you can see, I mean, all of us in the room can see how that shift from do unto others as you'd have done unto you to changing it to how others want to be treated and what other people would like. We can see that that really does level shift your mentality when you're working with people. If you can find out the way that people want to be treated and do that for them, you won't believe how happy people are with your service. When you change your mentality from how would I like to be treated on this phone call, or what information would I like to know about this, or what would I do if I were listing my house? If you're in that mind space, or you're in that mentality, you're probably doing okay, but we could be doing better. And the way that we can do better, and I think everybody should read this book, so write it down in your notes, but the way that we can do better, right, is by asking more questions, getting curious, like John Syed always says, and finding out really what's driving your client and what the opportunity you have in front of you. If you can find out how to deliver what your client wants, then you have reached the Platinum Rule. So I want to take a little bit of a story here to talk about my past in the restaurant industry. Without really understanding the Platinum Rule fully, P.F. Chang's China Bistro is somewhere that I worked for 7 years. I started serving there in college, and I actually worked there all the way through joining the elite team when I quit to really go all in on real estate. But the P.F. Chang's has a message. I know it's kind of low to the ground. I hope everybody can see it. But the P.F. Chang's message is, we are truly glad that you are here, and we will do everything we can to make you want to come back. And without me totally putting all the pieces together, that really is the Platinum Rule. It's kind of a two-part mentality. Every decision that our restaurant, just went back in time, every decision that P.F. Chang's makes with guest complaints or service-oriented, really every decision they make is supposed to be filtered through the lens of, are we showing the client that we're grateful for them, we're truly glad that they're in our restaurant, right? And then are we doing everything that we can to make them want to come back? So that's the Platinum Rule in different words. And this is kind of where I'm going to kind of offshoot a little bit onto my main message for the day. To really see your clients and see your business, and to review our year, to review 2019 through the lens of, is every individual that you worked with this year, do they feel the gratitude from you? Do they feel like you were grateful for your opportunity to work for them? And did they feel comfortable wanting to come back? Some people, well, anyway, you can't make people want to come back unless you make them feel to the highest degree of pamper, service, and gratitude is kind of where this message is based off of. Now, has anybody had a lettuce wrap from P.F. Chang's? Everybody? Almost everybody? 90% of the room? Good. If you haven't, go and get one. They're really good. They're their most popular appetizer. I'd say almost every table orders them. So, funny story about the chicken lettuce wraps. As you can imagine, we serve a ton of them every single day. And we always have to have the freshest, most crisp lettuce. So they just get cases and cases of iceberg lettuce every day shipped to the restaurant. So the lettuce has to be trimmed and washed, but part of kind of the cool way that it's served is that it's all the different individual layers of the lettuce, right? And you get 4 to 6 cups per serving, and it's kind of the natural lettuce. Okay, so I don't want anybody to feel grossed out by this, because I really do go back to P.F. Chang's and I eat there and I love it. But every once in a while, because this is a farm fresh situation, there can be small, like bugs, little, like a gnat. Nothing like crazy, but here and there, between the leaves of lettuce, no matter how well it was washed or how much it was cut or how much water it soaked in to try to rinse the lettuce off, there can be little bugs sometimes in them. Not infested with bugs, but like one bug. Okay. So, all right. So, in our business, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more, but in our business, just kind of be thinking about the translation, right? So there are pieces of the real estate process that come up organically or happen along the way that aren't your fault, right? Things happen during the move where a seller makes the wrong choice, or a buyer overreacts, or the lender ran into an unforeseen issue, or there's an issue on title, HOA, a million things that aren't your fault as the agent, but you actually have to deal with. And that's kind of like the bug in the lettuce for P.F. Chang's. It's not really my fault as the server that the lettuce that came out with for you had a little bug in it. It makes sense. Most people are pretty like, oh yeah, like farm fresh or extra protein, or make a little bit of joke about, hey, this is fresh lettuce and there's bug wanted a taste, right? So anyway, the interesting thing about I served at P.F. Chang's for 5 years, and then I became a manager after I graduated college. And the interesting thing about being a manager at a restaurant is you have to deal mostly with the problems that come into the restaurant, right? I mean, you're running things, you're managing the staff, you're managing the kitchen, you're managing the flow of the tables, but the biggest thing that you're doing is making sure that clients feel comfortable, like that the guests eating at the restaurant feel like you're glad to have them, but then also you're called to every problem situation that you can be made aware of. So as a manager, I found pretty quickly that you show up to a table who has a bug in their lettuce, and the level of their anger can be very different table to table, right? Some people are super chill about it. They're like, you didn't even need to come over here. Whatever, it's totally fine. We threw it away. They keep eating. Other people are disgusted. They want their entire meal paid for. They never want to come back. They're putting something on Yelp. They're putting something on Google reviews, whatever, right? So the job of a manager and the job of a good agent or anybody in customer service is to, when you've run into a problem, to really decipher what this client needs and wants and expects. Sometimes like I said, we can comp the lettuce wrap, we can make them a fresh one, we can get them a new plate of lettuce. Other people want a free dessert to really sweeten the experience. Other people are disgusted, they say, I lost my appetite. I won't eat anything else. And then you feel like, okay, how do I make this person want to come back? And so, I mean, the cool thing about P.F. Chang's, and you guys should all go there, because if you do run into a problem, they're pretty generous. Not all restaurants are as generous as they are, but basically during that time, I really started to figure out that I needed to, when I run into a problem that's not my fault, in customer service, in order for it not to affect my tip as a server, I'm going to really need to decipher what this client needs and expects, and then make sure that I go above and beyond it. And that's the biggest thing that we can do. There's another book we'll talk a little bit about in a minute called Raving Fans, and it talks about finding out what people expect and then delivering 1% more, 1% beyond what they expect. And that's really the way that you can blow their minds and make them become a fan of yours, or somebody that they just can't stop talking about how great that you are. So anyway, in our business, with this mentality of we are truly glad that you are here, and we will do everything we can to make you want to come back. If you just want to filter in your mind for a minute of the clients that you worked with this year, it's probably pretty immediate. If you were to get a phone call today from a deal you closed in April, say, what level of comfort do you have on seeing their name pop into your phone? Are there clients that you know that you finished the transaction barely hanging on and it's a little awkward? Are the majority of your closings happy? Are the majority of your people, inviting you to come to their housewarming party, or to texting you pictures of things that they've changed in the house? We can really take an inventory at the end of every year, at the end of every month, at the end of every transaction, of how comfortable do you feel like your clients actually were, and do you think that they will want to come back to you in the future? So, any questions? PF Chains? Yeah.
So you talked about identifying or deciphering what their needs are. What are some good questions, maybe back into the real estate world, you can ask to help you identify those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you're working with a listing, I would say the most important thing that you can ask is what they just actually ask their expectations, but open it up. Say, what kind of things are you expecting or hoping for in an agent? What type of marketing strategies do you want to see? Would you like to be tagged on Facebook? Do you want, an open house? The big buzzword. Are you expecting a weekly phone call? You can set your right expectations, but really asking them what they want early on, and then making sure you deliver, I think, is a big thing. When you're working with buyers, I've run into this because I work with a lot of buyers. I have to sometimes set the right expectation that I'm not always going to be the person opening the door for them. That the bigger part of my job is negotiating their contract and making sure that they get the best deal, but I can't always be physically in the city that they need to see at the time that they need to see in. So it's setting an expectation that way. I had an out-of-town client come in and they wanted to ride in my car. And I did not want them to ride in my car for 4 days in a row, but they did. Because that's what they thought. A real estate agent, we jump in his car, he's got a nice little car, and we just cruise around. And that's like my nightmare. I don't want to have them in my car for marathon days of showings, but just those types of things. I don't know. Did that answer your question? Anybody else have anything they can add to that? I think that the answer to that question really does come easily if you look at your kind of stream of business and decide hey, I usually do just as listed, just solds. Am I always going to be knocking the neighbors? Decide what you want to do in your business, and then set the right expectation, and then ask them what else you can do above and beyond to make them feel like they got service. I see this sometimes with presenting presenting offers on a listing in person versus calling them on the phone. Different people have different comfort level on that, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to decide what you're willing to do and give, and then 2, kind of what they expect. A lot of times in our business, we can set an expectation. Say, this is what I will do for you. And that seems to appease them. They seem to be like, okay, that's fine. We don't really know how offers get presented, But I'd say that kind of having a detail and a plan on your own side of it, and then making sure that meshes with them. Anything else on that? Okay, cool. So let's do some bullet points here. I'm gonna try not to go through every single thing really deep on here. I've written a little bit more content than what we should detail. So if you want to, take a picture of it or write down a few things that jump out to you. But I think I do want to say before I jump into these, I am absolutely not a perfect agent. Okay, I'm not perfect at customer service, and I do think this is a pretty inclusive list of things that you can do to make sure that you give great customer service. And I'm not perfect at all of these things. I don't want you to feel like I'm coming from that approach. But the number one thing that I think you can do when you're working with your client, and also when you're getting referred to other people, is to be present and proactive. Has anybody ever had their client ask them how many other people they're working with, or how many other people you have under contract? Does anybody ever get that question? Okay. That's a little bit of a red flag question, just so you know. If you're not aware, that's a red flag. I'm gonna get my drink. So when people are asking how many other people you're working with right now, the hope is that you're so amazing that they feel like we feel like we feel like we are your only client. That's when it's going the right way. When it's going the wrong way, they don't feel like they're getting your full attention. So when that happens, it can be a little bit of an inventory check for you. Just in the back of your mind, remember this training, be like, ooh, I hope they go the one way, but they could be feeling underlying feelings that they're not getting my full attention. The best customer service people and the people that are doing the very best thing, each one of their clients feel like they're their only client that they're working with. And it can be really hard to do that. But this can actually be achieved through quick responses and setting good expectations with people. We talk a lot about it a lot on our team, the term future pacing. When you are future pacing your transaction or leading it, that is the way that you can make sure that the client's questions are answered before they come up. And it comes a little bit with scripting. It comes a little bit with just your kind of natural progression of the contract. But having something set up where you always say the same thing to each of your clients about what to expect if an inspection's coming up, what to expect from the appraiser, what to expect at closing, and bringing your ID and wiring the money if it's over $10,000. Any little details that might not totally feel like your job. It might feel like, well, the lender or the title company is going to talk to them about when they'll get their money or how to send the wire transfer in. Any little details you can put in front of them before the rest of the transaction comes together is future pacing. The good way to think about it also is, are you texting your client before they're texting you? Are you calling them before they're calling you? If you make it your progress, or if you make it in your system to look at each of your deals on Monday morning or the beginning of every day or whatever it is, and say, what potential check marks are we going to get to this week with this file? And you send out the first message, whether you have an assistant do it and you're streamlined in a system, or you do it personally through text or a call or an email. If you future pace them and say, hey, just want to let you know, like, the buyers are still expecting to get their keys on Sunday at 5, like, how can I help with the moving process? Whatever, if you do that on Monday, there's no issues. Typically, there are less issues. How about that? But, if you're waiting until Sunday morning to be like, oh, hey, are you guys cool to be out by 5 today? And they're like, no, we're behind schedule, whatever. That's where you dropped the ball. That's not the seller moving too slow. That's you dropping the ball and setting the right expectation. So just think about that. If you're the first to act, then you're running your business. We're not reacting to the problems. All of us have felt that way doing this job, where fires are popping up everywhere, it seems, and we're just reacting. Like, all afternoon I just put out fires. Some of it is out of your control. But if we filter that through the lens of what could I have done before this fire to tone down the drama or to set the right expectation, that's when you're in your action. That's when you're in your power mode on closing a lot of transactions. Okay, how smooth is your process? Do we all have a CRM system? Do we all have a way to receive referrals? Do you have a plan? If somebody texts you on Saturday night, or you're at a party, a dinner party with friends, and they say, hey, my neighbor, I gave your number to my neighbor. And you're like, oh, that's so cool. What's their name? I hope they call me. If that's your system, it needs to be improved. Will all of the clients and all of the referrals, no matter how they come to you, flow smoothly through your process? So it could be something as simple as a note in your phone where you say, you know, the second you're having a conversation with a friend or family member and they say, oh, hey, like, you know, my coworker Tom's gonna call you. I'm like, oh, awesome. Let me write down his name. You know, that's what I do. And that gives me an excuse to bring out my phone so that I don't forget about him. And then I enter him in. I say, hey, do you mind if I just send him a quick text while we're talking about it so that I don't forget? Something like as simple as that. If you're ready, if you have a script and a pattern and a process, then those referrals don't slip through the cracks. And we all hear this all the time where you say, oh, somebody's referring somebody to you, and you say, oh, can I get their number? Oh, I'm just gonna have them reach out to you, right? What do? Do you still put them in your phone? Do you have a process for that where the referring person still feels like you're engaged and taking care of them? Absolutely. A reminder in your phone, a note that says follow up with John about his coworker Tom. You know, those types of little things are, I think, what makes the difference in this industry. It's so easy to be like, cool, have them give me a call. And you never hear from either of them ever again, right? But if you ask them 1 or 2 or 3 times and you put them in your CRM and you're saying, hey, this John guy, he's a referring client. He's somebody that liked my process enough to want to send my name on. He gets moved up in your list. He's your gold, right? So this is the same type of thing, an action-based approach to receiving referrals, a professional process versus a reaction-based service. We've all been there where we're getting a call from an unknown number and we answer it, and it might be with your family, it might be in the evening, it might be during the workday even, but it's somebody like, hey, I got your number from so-and-so, and there's this house that we like, and we want to see it. And it's the first time you've heard of this person. Like, how quick are you to say, great, this is exactly what I do every time. Thank you so much for calling. What house is it? Let me look it up. You know, how quick are you in any circumstance to be ready to give that person your full attention, and then to be the proactive person in the relationship, to be the professional, right? To say, great, thank you so much for calling me. I would love to lead you through this process. Have you ever bought a home before? This is what we need to do with the lending side. This is what, we can go see that house today.
I think a lot of that has to do with preparation too, on the way that you are ready to present yourself to people. When you answer your phone, don't say hello.
Right.
I get that all the time.
Ooh, we're going
when
to talk
calling
about that
agents.
too.
It drives me absolutely freaking bonkers. Hello. And I'm like, did I call the right number?
Yeah.
Or is this a professional? And so be present, be ready to accept those calls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. We're going to talk about this right here for a second. Let's just move into it. You have to always be approachable. You have to be ready for business 24/7. Unfortunately, maybe for you or us or whatever, that's the industry that we're in. We don't have to work every day and night all the time. We can have days off, but ultimately when our phone rings and people are calling, that's money to be made, and that's the service that we're providing. And if you want an 8 to 5 job, there's plenty to choose from, you know? So the biggest thing that we can do is being approachable and ready for business. I like that. I wrote this way on purpose. Each first impression is key. This is another red flag moment. Have you guys ever had a friend or a past client call you and say, hey, I know you're busy. Okay, you had that? We've all had it, right? You can't control what other people say all of the time. You know, that's a pretty common expression for everybody to say to other people. But if you take a second every time it's said to you to review what kind of energy you're projecting, it makes a really big difference. And it can be in the way that you answer the phone. Hello? Or, hello, this is Chad, right? It makes a really big difference on being approachable. Each conversation that we have with a lead or a client is an opportunity to make a first impression. You know, so if we are good and careful about the way that we are impressing ourselves or our energy out to people, that can sometimes be the difference in them feeling comfortable calling you even 3 times in the same night. I mean, all of us have had that where we've hung up the phone and then we feel like, oh, I gotta call that guy back because I forgot to bring up this one other thing I wanted to talk to him about, right? If every time you call him, he's like, hey, good to hear from you again. Nice to talk to you. Hey, how are you? Anything new in the last 20 minutes? Ha ha ha, right? If each of your first impressions is open that way, then we'll have a better and more approachable business model. It's really important to save your referrals in your phone the second you get them, and your clients. I need to change that to say referrals and clients. I just had this really recently. I was emailing this client back and forth about inspection repair stuff. So we were already under contract, already done an inspection. I hadn't saved his number in my phone, okay? So I knew it was a 208 area code, Idaho guy. But we had been emailing back and forth, and then I was doing something else, and my phone rings. And it's a 208 number, didn't think about it, wasn't like, oh, this is probably Cameron. I answer the phone, hello, this is Chad. He's like, hey man, it's Cameron. I'm like, oh yeah, hey Cameron, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that might seem like a little dumb thing, but I probably talked to this guy 30 times and spent time with him and like whatever. It makes a difference to answer your phone, hey Cameron, yeah, thanks for calling. This emailing back and forth is kind of complex, right? Let's get these repairs figured out, right? That was a moment where he felt like I didn't know who the heck he was. And that wasn't a good thing for my business. That's a strike. So being careful about it, being proactive, actually making the effort to save the husband and the wife in your phone, and making sure that you're doing a group message rather than a single message. There's a ton of phone and email etiquette things that aren't hard, but if you're aware of them and you're focused on doing a few of the extra things, really make a big difference. We all know that in working with couples, there's usually a driver who's in charge, and somebody who's just kind of the secondary person in the transaction. It makes such a big difference if every single time you're communicating with them, you're addressing both people and asking them, okay, Karen, thank you for your repair list. Tom, do you have any other repairs or concerns that you're worried about? Even little things like that, giving both of your clients a voice. It's a million ways to make sure that you're the approachable one, you're the professional, and you're leading. Yeah.
I have a great example of that. I had a client that was referred to me by my cousin.
Uh-huh.
And fortunately, I had actually talked to him multiple times on the phone. He was a for sale by owner. He eventually listed with a local brand. They weren't doing good, so he dumped them. He ended up calling me. I built this fantastic rapport with him. And I left the wife out of most of it because he was just the communicator, right? At the end, they sent the
quality or real satisfied thing survey
to the wife. It was the worst survey I've ever had. This guy absolutely loves me.
Crazy.
He thinks I'm like the best thing since sliced bread, but his wife despised me.
Interesting.
And so that point is really critical because I had to go back. I actually went to the survey company, told them I had never dealt with the wife, and asked if they would allow the husband to redo the survey.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
They did.
Cool.
And so he redid the survey, and it's a fantastic survey. There's a fantastic result. But it is interesting when you think you have this perception of how something's going, but if you don't include both parties and address them on their level, then they won't be your raving fan.
Yeah, and when they go to refer somebody else down the line, that wife won't refer you, but hopefully the husband will, and that's a whole other topic about like CRM and SOI calls being to each person individually. But yeah, so being responsive. Now this is something that I have to really try hard to do, and I'm not great at it. I'm okay, but I'm not great at it. But the best thing that you can do when you get a missed call from your client or a text and you don't have time to deal with it is to acknowledge it right away. Because it doesn't really matter how long it takes you typically, unless something's super pressing and urgent. But if they feel acknowledged, their level of comfort comes way up. Their discomfort comes down, right? So when you get a missed call or you get a text, it's really hard for us to be present in our current appointments and also be texting the people that text with or that are reaching out to us. But if you're keeping an eye on what texts are coming in during your showings, and one's a showing request, or one's, hey, I had a question about this appraisal, or hey, we got the appraisal back, shooting a quick note out that says, hey, I saw the email about your appraisal, I'm in an appointment, I'll call you about it as soon as I'm done. Those little things every day on every piece of every deal are the way that you get the top surveys at the end. They're the way that the client says, that guy was on top of every single thing. Every single thing that happened, he was ahead of it. If you do it that way and you make it a habit to be kind of watching your email, watching your text, watching your calls all day long, it's simple. It really isn't hard, but it's what I think makes the difference. We all know this. Let me see what I'm doing on time. I'm going to kind of skip through a little bit of this. I think this one is a really important line right here. Does your client need to be heard or educated? What I've learned in doing a lot of deals is that a lot of times you're the only person in your client's life who knows all the ins and outs of the drama that they're dealing with. And in that way, we can kind of be a therapist sometimes for our clients. A lot of times, they're stressed and they're concerned about things and whatever, but there's not actually a problem to fix. And there's not actually something that needs to be negotiated. Here and there, they need to be educated or there needs to be a negotiation. But a lot of times, if you just are a listening ear and you let them talk, they'll resolve their own problem and they'll feel better about it by the end. And so just being the professional, making sure that you're not riling up the other people in the transaction, that's a really important skill. And it actually is what makes people fall in love with you. It makes people feel like this guy, like he just listened to me. I called him one time on a Friday and I talked to him for 20 minutes and I know his kids were there, I could hear him, but he was the best, right? Like, sometimes you just have to be the listening ear. Ultimately, as the professional, their comfort level will be your comfort level. If your clients are taken care of and happy, your work week is good and smooth. So managing that, like say, hey, I'm uncomfortable every single week, then there's probably some customer service issues with you and your clients. And you're feeling always on guard or always reactive or always attacked by, I'm dealing with the worst seller right now. Okay, like what could you change to have a better relationship, to get everybody's comfort level back to where it should be? Okay. Okay. Objection handling. This is similar to what I was talking about does your client need to be heard or is there actually an issue that you need to fix? A lot of times what people bring up, I'm going to bring back the bug and the lettuce right now. Sometimes you go to the table and they're talking about the bug and the lettuce and you think as a manager, oh, if I just fix the bug and the lettuce, they'll be super happy. But when you talk to them about the bug and the lettuce, making a habit to ask if there's any other issues or any other things that were affecting their quality of service, other stuff comes up. It's like, well, our server never brought us our Diet Coke, and we asked her for it the second we sat down, right? Or, well, these lettuce wraps, I know they took 15 minutes and now there's a bug in them. There's 2 issues now, right? Being aware that usually the first objection people bring up isn't always the biggest problem. And just being aware that when you're fixing or you're helping, getting in the habit of saying, hey, I'm happy to talk to the seller about the water heater. Is there anything else that you want me to address with them right now? Any other concerns about the water, or any other concerns about the inspection, right? If you have a script and you're good at approaching those things and always making sure you ask at the end, hey, I'll talk to them about the water heater and I'll make sure that we know how to work the sprinkler system. Is there anything else? Even if you have to say that 5 times, it can make the difference of feeling like this guy really made sure that I felt good. And they say, no, I'm great. I just need to know those few things and I'm good to go. A lot of times in the transaction, I mean, we're not seeing the behind the scenes of the husband and wife in the transaction, right? Like the husband's concerned about getting a new water heater, but the wife's concerned about their credit cards and how they're going to afford this payment, and what if more than the water heater goes out, and all these things. If you can kind of make sure you're addressing all of the objections individually and making sure you have a path to getting all the objections, it makes people feel a lot more taken care of. And be scripted. Know exactly what you're going to say. I'll get a call sometimes about the lender's loan estimate or the CD that they're supposed to sign before midnight, and they're worried about it. And I'm not the lender. I don't even get the CD, right? But am I ready? Do I know exactly what to say? Do I know how to get their lender on the phone and answer the right questions? A big red flag on one of the loan estimates, I'll let Inspiro talk about it, but one of the loan estimates shows the owner's policy of title insurance on it as a charge. And I know that. So when they say, hey, this looks $1,500 more than it should, I'm like, oh, there's this title thing on there probably. Let me review it. Let me talk to your lender. We'll make sure it's all good, right? So just having a script, knowing what to say. Okay. We, in our industry, our job, we really are a middleman. I mean, we're a leader, but we're in the middle of a lot of conversations, right? We talk to title, we talk to the lender, we talk to the inspector. There's another agent on the other side, broker, team leader, transaction coordinator. Our customer service base needs to be bigger than just to our clients. Every agent on the other side of your deal should like you by the time the transaction is done. If you start off rocky, you should try to repair that. I just recently had a really negative experience with this other title company, and I was mean, I was aggressive, I was right. But anyway, it was hard, and that lady told the other agent and the seller that I was mean and hard to work with. And it bugs me, actually. And this is true, I'm not just making this up for this presentation. I just saw that other agent at Home Depot yesterday, and it was weird. Okay, so you know. But anyway, you never know who's going to be on the other end of your next deal. You never know which lender you burned the bridge with, who's now writing an offer on your new listing. That can make or break. This is a relationship-based business, and it doesn't really matter who's right. Like, I just had to get pounded back into my head. It matters how you're perceived as a professional, and what they expect, and what they want, and how you can deliver that to them. Okay, it's not over even when it's over. Hopefully it's not. The end of the transaction really should be the springboard for you to be getting more deals, right? These clients of yours should feel like they can call or text you at any time, and that their friends can call or text you at any time. How comfortable are you calling your client and asking them for a favor? Like Alma calling that client and being like, hey man, like, your wife gave this kind of crazy review, like, but I got it approved that you could give me a good one. Like, that's probably a little bit uncomfortable if you didn't end it right, you know? How comfortable are you calling your past client and saying, hey, like, I know you're an electrician, like I need help with electrical on this other deal, or could you answer a couple of questions for me? If you don't feel comfortable dialing somebody in your phone, there's a bridge you need to build. Yeah.
It usually doesn't turn out as bad as you make it out to be.
Totally.
You know, when you actually take the step and make the call, most people want the communication,
right,
the clarity. With him, it was interesting. He worked at home, and so did she. And so my assumption was that they completely communicated on all levels, and that he would know about this when I called him. He had no clue.
Interesting.
He's like, I had no clue that we even got one of those, and that she did that. He said, that is completely not what I want.
Cool.
Set value. He's
Yeah.
like, read it to me. I read it to him. He's like, what?
Not funny.
Yeah.
And now you got 3 deals out of it.
Facilitated one. Yeah. Got a couple more deals. It was good.
So, act like you're on retainer. Are you their realtor for life? You want to be their realtor for life. Sometimes you have to fire people and you don't want to work with them again. But for the majority of our clients and for the snowball effect to happen, we want to be on retainer. Okay, Shiv Singh was the chief marketing officer for Visa, and he worked for Pepsi also as the head of their social media and digital marketing. I don't know a ton more behind him, but that's kind of his credentials. I liked this quote though: the purpose of a business is to create a customer who creates customers, right? We want the snowball effect. We want 1 good deal to turn into 2 good deals, it turns into 4 good deals. And that's how we snowball. You're like my slide with my personal transactions over the last 6 years, I mean, my business completely flip-flopped. It was 3 years of grinding and really working hard for strangers and whoever would talk to me. And the last 3 years have been so much easier. It's been friends and people and, oh, my cousin's coming, go list their house. I show up one time, I talk to them. I don't even compete for a lot of the listings that I go on. When I do compete, I'm all nervous. I'm like, oh, like, I gotta like really make sure I'm good here in this meeting. But that's the point of the good customer service, and that, you know, you set yourself up for a lot easier business. This is my last slide. Maybe. This is my last heavy duty slide. So take a picture of it because I am a little bit over on time, or close to it. But, you know, another book that you should read if you're interested in what I've talked about today at all. If I've hit a few chords and been like, you know, I should really do a little bit more on this, you should get the book Raving Fans. It's very easy to read. It'll take you in 45 minutes maybe. It's a very short book, and for some reason the pages are only like half full. I don't know. Anyway, it asks you in the book, is your motto that I'm no worse than my competition? I'm just as good as the other agents. This is what everybody does. If that's your mentality or a justification you're saying out loud, you should probably change. Discover what the customer wants, deliver that plus 1%. People are attracted. I mean, it is the law of attraction. It is an abundance mentality. If every time you had an interaction with your client 100 times over the last 3 months, they felt like you were positive and willing to go above and beyond, that's how you get their trust, and that's how they have a good experience. People are quick to broadcast about the fly in the lettuce, right? But a lot of times people don't broadcast when they've had an incredible experience. People are quick to go negative, right? And we can't control that, honestly. There's going to be people that you go above and beyond for, that you cater, it's red carpet the whole time. You feel great about how it finished, and yet they'll still nitpick something that is not on your radar. And unfortunately, that does happen, even to me, to everybody. You have to be in front of your clients consistently and become their friend and become genuine. No loose strings, always approachable. Those are the types of things that really make people comfortable. Like, hey, I don't know if you work with listings. I mean, you helped us buy our home, but my cousin wants to list her house. Can you help her? You know, those types of things, people don't know what the ins and outs of our industry are. So just making sure that you leave yourself approachable is the key. This is the last thing I'm really going to hit hard on. how are you talking about your business? This is like probably the most important thing I'm going to talk about today, actually. I'm feeling it really important during the holidays. Like we just had Thanksgiving, so maybe you can kind of have like a rear view mirror on Thanksgiving and you're approaching Christmas parties season. How do you talk about your business? Are you constantly complaining to your friends or your close family members? Oh, work is so overwhelming. I've got this horrible seller. She's this and this and this. Oh, I'm constantly driving from Ogden to Provo, Ogden to Provo. I was in Spanish Fork 6 times this week. Whatever you're saying, that is a signal to who you're talking to about if they should refer you business or not. You have to be so careful about the way that you talk about your business and who you complain about your business to and who you make sure not to complain about your business to. Anytime you're late or busy or something that another client does messes up something for your next client, it's really important that you do not talk badly about your business or about what you have to do. Like, I'm happy to drive to Ogden as many times as you want to see that house. That should be the mentality, right? At a Christmas party or Thanksgiving, how's business? It's great. Real estate has changed my life. It's given me more opportunities than I can even believe, and I'm just looking for more business. If you have that type of script and that kind of approach, that's a green light to people. Give this guy business. He wants it. He's hungry, right? Like, hey, I had the best year of my life, and I'm hoping to do even more next year. It's like, I love real estate. If you don't love real estate, figure out why and fix it. You know, you have to be authentic. It can't be BS on this type of conversation at the Christmas party. You know, it has to be, do you love what you do? And if you do, that shines through to the people that you work with. One thing that Century 21's awesome about is making sure that we have a strong mindset. You know, my clients know that I'm like a Tony Robbins freak. Like, I talk to them about walking on fire and whatever. It's quirky and it's funny and whatever. But even the little things that you say and just who you are as an individual, it can attract more people to you. Because we're in a people business, we want to be sending that message out there with abundance and gratitude and making sure that people feel like you're happy to help regardless of the reward. Like, yeah, I get paid, but genuinely, yeah, I love going through this process with you and seeing you buy your first home. Like, I'm so fulfilled by it. If that's your message and that's what you actually feel, people will be much happier to work with you and much happier to refer you. Last thing, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Year over year, we're resetting our goals. We're trying to do more. But ultimately, I mean, there's people in the room that have been in the business a lot longer than I have. You know, this is a business where we're setting ourselves up for the next 20 to 40 years. And, you know, that's why sometimes it might be worth taking a commission cut or taking, you know, giving a little bit more than you really want to in the moment to make sure that your clients feel like you're there forever and that you'll help them and that they can always feel like they can come back to you. Last slide here. Steve Jobs, my hero, said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Together in this quote for me means with the group of people that I have built is my clientele, my SOI, right? I will go far in real estate because of my connections and the people that liked working with me. I might be able to turn and burn a lot of deals by prospecting and handing everything off, right? And being super efficient. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to do 100 deals a year personally. That's too much for me. I can't give that type of service, and that's what's important to me, to that many people. You know what I mean? So that's why, even if you remember back to my graph, my comfort zone, and not that I'm always comfortable, but is, you know, 40 to 50 deals. That's about how many people I can manage and serve at my level, and it's getting easier, so I'm hoping to increase some, but regardless, the marathon of this business is that if we treat our SOI right and we treat our clients right, we'll have abundance for our whole life. So anyway, thank you. That's my message.
Thanks for coming, everyone. One announcement I did forget. Toastmasters is following this at 1 o'clock. If you're still unfamiliar with what Toastmasters is, basically if you want to talk and communicate more good, you should definitely come if you don't even know what's wrong with what I just said. And on top of that, visitors. Chad would have done this before. I know one visitor that's here, but Selena, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Selena Probing. I'm currently trying to get my real estate license and taking the test next week on Thursday, so it's pretty exciting.
Woo! Awesome. Exciting, nerve-wracking. Awesome. Anyone else visiting for the first time?
Well, no, my first time.
Yeah,
She
please
just
introduce
joined.
yourself.
Yeah, I knew. I got my test. So
Nice.
I'm now a real estate agent.
Right. What's your name?
Orleni.
Arlene. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for coming, guys.
Real quick, I have one more announcement.
Oh, okay.
So as you all know, Rick Bentley has both of his knees replaced. He's in the hospital. He's not going to be here all of December. So he's going to be gone. We have a couple of cards at the front desk. So if you want to wish him get well soon or happy holidays, there's more of a holiday card for him to kind of linger on the pain that he's going through.
Okay.
And we actually are getting together to send him something. So if you'd like to participate or chip in, the cards are there. Anything that you want to chip in would be really helpful.
Awesome.
And if you can please sign as you're there too, he'll really love that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Good job, Chad. That was awesome.
I cleared up a few things. So,